P Diddy trial. Hey kids, come and hear what a shit I am. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. P Diddy's trial has begun. And let's find out a little bit of what's happened in the first day's coverage. You'll be aware that separately I analysed P Diddy, also known as Sean Combs, to explain that he is a narcissist. And therefore, this enables us to interpret his behaviours through the prism of his narcissism. Many people will not understand what he is. They will just think that he's a nasty piece of work, that he's some kind of sexual deviant, that he's an arsehole, that he's a complete and utter shit. And whilst those descriptions would not necessarily be inaccurate, the fact is that it's more important to understand what the driver is behind his behaviour. The first day of evidence, the BBC reports, in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial, covered the following. After jury selection concluded, the court heard opening statements from the prosecution, who accused the hip-hop mogul of using fame and violence to abuse sexually women. The rapper's attorneys defended his swinger lifestyle and rejected the sex trafficking claims. Following opening statements, the court heard from prosecutors' first witnesses, including a security guard from a hotel where Mr. Combs is seen in a now viral video beating his ex-girlfriend in 2016. See parts passim for my analysis of that. The security guard's testimony was followed by a man who said Mr. Combs abused his ex-girlfriend during paid sexual encounters with the couple. Prosecutors focused on the two central victims in the case, Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, and another unnamed former girlfriend. Lawyers for Mr. Combs said that the video was evidence of Mr. Combs' flawed character, but not of a larger criminal enterprise. Well, the position that's been adopted by his defence to basically say he's a flawed individual, and yes, he's been engaged in abusive behaviour, but that doesn't make him a sex trafficker. So it's a little bit like saying, yeah, I punched you and I kicked you, but I didn't attack you with a knife. Of course, he will do whatever is necessary to try and find a verdict of not guilty, because the consequences of that will amount to a huge threat to his control. But the fact is that the opening statements will naturally have not portrayed him in a particularly good light. The prosecutor's opening statement, which came from Assistant US Attorney Emily Johnson, said there was another side to Combs, the cultural icon who ran a criminal enterprise with an inner circle of people who helped him commit crimes and cover them up. She also said that Combs forced his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura to have sex with male escorts, filmed it and kept the recordings as blackmail, in one instance forcing one of the male escorts to urinate in her mouth, that resources from Combs's businesses were used to sexually exploit multiple women, that he had freak-offs, or the multi-day events that Combs allegedly orchestrated, where women, including Ventura, were allegedly drugged and forced into unwanted sex acts. Not exactly a glowing endorsement of Diddy, is it? But what did the defence's opening statement have to say? Well, in summary, it described Combs as complicated, saying the case is about love and jealousy and adult choices, not racketeering or sex trafficking. That he admits to jealousy-driven domestic violence. That whilst he takes full responsibility for acts of domestic violence is not sex trafficking, and jurors were asked not to judge Combs for his sexual preferences. The video where he's seen assaulting Ventura was described by the defence as indefensible, but insisted it's evidence of domestic violence, not sex trafficking, and stated that Ventura willingly stayed with Combs for 11 years and left on her own terms. Nice bit of victim blaming there, contradicting prosecution claims of coercion. Explained that explicit videos of the freak-offs may be uncomfortable to watch, but they actually show consensual acts and are not based on coercion. It was also, the baby oil was also referenced. Basically, his lawyer said, you may know of his love of baby oil. Is that a federal crime? No. Also, the defence suggested that you need to consider the motive of the various witnesses because everybody has a motive. Once again, deflecting from the blame in respect of Diddy and suggesting that it's other people who've got an axe to grind, which would be typical behaviour, of course, of a narcissist. The first witness, an LAPD officer, talked about the assault that took place. And then Daniel Phillips, another witness, explained that he was paid to have sex with Cassie Ventura on multiple occasions. He testified that Diddy would direct him and Ventura as they had sex. He explained that they'd use baby oil every time that he was with Cassie and Diddy would instruct them to use more. Sometimes the pair would ask Daniel Phillip to pick up the items before meeting them for sex. He testified that on one occasion where Ventura instructed him to urinate on her, Diddy was masturbating while this happened. He said he didn't often wear a condom while having sex with Ventura, and he brought an STD history at one point to verify his health status. He also testified that Diddy recorded them having sex on one or two occasions using a phone and a camcorder device. Philip also testified that Ventura appeared to be intoxicated on drugs when they met up. He said that Diddy once said to him, "I don't think this is going to happen today." Philip said Ventura was slumped over on a couch. He said he once took Molly, also known as ecstasy, that was offered to him by Combs. He said he felt nauseous but also euphoric at the same time. Philip explained that he was paid between $700 and $5,000 to $6,000 for each encounter with Diddy and Ventura, but sometimes he was not paid at all. He explained, "I was just excited that I was in this world and happy to be involved with people of such notoriety. I didn't care if I got paid one way or another." He also recounted an incident where he saw Diddy assault Cassie Ventura at her home. She was on the computer when Combs shouted at her to come here, ordering around haughtiness, assertion of control. When Cassie responded that her personal information was on the computer, Diddy came out and started dragging her by her hair into the bedroom. Nullification, threat to control with physical violence. She was screaming and repeatedly saying, "I'm sorry," while he heard sounds which sounded like Diddy was slapping her, application of physical violence to control. He said he heard Combs saying, "Bitch, when I tell you to come here, you come. Now, not later." Again, haughtiness, dismissiveness, and the assertion of control through insult and physical violence. Already on day one, we have evidence of giving drugs to people, using physical violence against his girlfriend on repeated occasions, using insulting language towards her, engaging in certain sexual kinks, for instance, masturbating while a male escort urinated on his girlfriend, that he was paying the escort to be there for the provision of sexual behaviour. It's not a particularly good look at all, covering various vices and behaviours which you would largely expect an individual would prefer to keep to themselves rather than have be broadcast around the world as a consequence of a court case. But it goes further, because guess who was at court watching all of this? First of all, his mum. Yes, Janice Combs was there to watch her son in the dock being spoken about in terms of beating his girlfriend, calling her a bitch, paying a prostitute to be involved in pissing games. Fantastic. Are you proud of your son, Mrs. Combs? And then at least 6 of Diddy's 7 children were also present in court as well. Hey, go Dad! Lashings of baby oil. You're the man. Now, first of all, what kind of individual would engage in such behaviours when he's supposedly a family man? Well, one that's self-absorbed, one that doesn't care about other people, indeed a narcissist. And furthermore, one that doesn't mind his family turning up at court to hear all of these things said about him. Why? Because in his mind, he's done nothing wrong. So, I do all of these things, I'm Diddy. That's the way I roll. Any disapproval would be rejected by his narcissism because he is the great and fantastic Diddy. He is the king. You are all there to worship him. The debauched behaviour that he engages in doesn't register in his mind as problematic, and indeed, he expects his family to be there to support him. Rather than be embarrassed, because narcissists don't suffer embarrassment, rather than be ashamed, because narcissists don't experience shame, he wants his mother and his children to sit, with no concern for how they feel about it all, listening as their father and her son are described as engaged in the various behaviours that I've mentioned earlier in this video, and that's just day 1. We're going to hear plenty about Diddy's behaviours, and the jury will make a determination as to whether he is to be convicted of what he's been indicted of. But the fact is, there is going to be so much material that is in effect admitted behaviour, the issue already being stated by his defence team that this isn't sex trafficking. Sure, he beats his girlfriend up, but that's domestic violence, so he's not guilty of sex trafficking. Yeah, he pays male prostitutes to engage in pissing games with his girlfriend, but that's not sex trafficking. Yes, he gives people drugs, but that's not sex trafficking, so it's all right. Imagine that as your defence. I do all of these things, beat up my girlfriend, masturbate whilst watching her have sex and engage in pissing games with a male prostitute. I give people drugs so they're out of their faces. Yeah, I do all of that, but as long as it's not sex trafficking, it's cool. But moreover, hey family, I need you to come and support me. So you're going to have to listen to all of this and hear all about my deviant behaviour. When they turned up, he tapped his chest and gave them a peace sign and made a heart sign towards them. Obviously buoyed by their presence because it demonstrates that they're under control, and it also provides him with fuel, the fact that they are there to support him. He is more concerned about them being there and showing support for him than what they're actually going to hear. Because he has no emotional empathy for them, he doesn't care if it upsets them to hear that his dad engages in these behaviours. Because he has no emotional empathy for his mother, he doesn't care that she has to listen to all of the deviant behaviours in relation to her son. No, what matters is that they are there to show support to him, because that translates to control. Undoubtedly, there's going to be plenty more, but if there was one thing that demonstrates the deviancy of P Diddy, is his insistence of attendance by his mother and his children to be put through listening to what he's been up to. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.